Earlier this week, I made a video that was directed more so towards people that are newer to motorcycling. And it's a question that comes up a lot. It's why carburetors and not fuel injectors? And I didn't feel in the video like I answered this question properly. So I took it down and I wanted to go back over it again. But not necessarily to create an argument, but to explain a difference. So you have the DR right here, and a lot of times bikes like this, they get overlooked, and there's a tremendous value with these bikes, one on the used market, but also in the new market. And so why would somebody intentionally buy a bike, especially intentionally buy a bike new like the DR? Why do you buy it new with a carburetor when there's fuel injected options even for the same price? And that comes down to, you may hear examples from dealers where they say, well, if it breaks on the side of the road, you can fix it. But I think that's a little bit too typical of an answer. It gets somewhat to the point, and it does sort of answer the question. But we all know, if we've had a fuel injected bike, especially a Japanese one, when has it ever broken down, right? But to simplify the answer, with carbureted bikes, there are a lot less things going on right here. In a fuel injected bike, and like I said, this is going to be directed to newer riders in particular, but throttle bodies, fuel sensors, ECUs, in order to tune it, you have to pull the ECU and reflash it. It's a system called, our program called reflashing your ECU. But with carburetors, cleaning, changing your jets. Now, there are injectors on a fuel injected system, and yes, you can replace injectors and clean injectors, but with fuel injection, there's the fuel pump, the ECU, throttle bodies, all these sensors, and with a reflash, it controls a lot more than just the fuel. It also controls when the fan kicks on and a lot of other things. But if you're going to travel long distances, you want to take the gamble with the fewest steps possible. Carbureted is the fewest steps possible. It gives you the ability to still tune the bike with fuel injection, and no one's arguing that fuel injection's not the better technology, because fuel injection's obviously winning the war if it was going to be a this versus that comparison, because fuel injection's in everything. But it gives you the ability to be anywhere and follow fewer steps to get to the fix if you do need it. And even though fuel injection might last wherever you're going, there could be physical damage that happens to the bike that you can't control, environmental damage that you can't control, and it's going to add a lot more things and a lot more obstacles for you to have to overcome when you're somewhere more remote, that a carburetor is probably going to help you be more likely to overcome. Anyhow, another advantage to it, especially in a bike with so few horsepower like the DR, which only has, I think, mid to high 40s. You'd have to look back at my other videos because that's a number that doesn't stick in my head. But it keeps what's called the tractor factor. The clean carburetor is going to give very reliable, smooth fuel delivery. It's not going to be jittery like some fuel injection systems or some ride-by-wire systems can be. I'm not claiming that they are, but they can be that way. But that's about the closest I can get to telling you what the main difference is. I'll hop on the bike and I'll show you a couple things that one of my lesser liked fuel injected bikes did, and I can recreate it with the DR. But I'll see you in just a second. We're going to hop on the DR, go around the block. Stay tuned. I'm Comfy Dad Shoes. See you soon.
Welcome to the Comfy Bike. We are out here now. Look at this throttle position. This is the very first thing we're going to talk about. So on the VFR, one of the big problems that I had was the jerkiness, and it had to do with the mapping in the ECU of that particular bike, which was like this. It was really uneven, and you could never keep one position on the throttle. with this carburetor, it's very easy to articulate where you want that engine RPM to be. And there's not any flat spots. It's very predictable. Now, I've not changed anything on this carburetor because when I bought the bike, I liked the power. I liked the elevation range. I liked the torque. There wasn't anything I didn't like that I felt like I needed to change. Plus, I don't know much about carburetors in terms of, if you compared me to some of these people that are just naturally mechanically inclined, I can't pull one apart and rebuild it in 20 minutes like everybody, you know, like that you see in the forums. This is not me. But I'm not afraid of them either. And one thing that I can promise you is when you buy a carbed bike, I swear to God, it comes with them. Every carbed bike comes with a carb buddy. And I say that because it seems like there are so many people, when you do have an issue with a carburetor, they're like, I will help you, I will show you, I will take a photo. So if you can't find a carb buddy, I'm willing to bet you can. And if you don't find a carb buddy, I will come out there and make you a custom pair of comfy dad shoes of your own just to eat crow. But I'm pretty sure you can. But look at this. Look, I can articulate that throttle position so easy, and I don't even have to stand up to do it with this super soft suspension. Now on a Husky 701, I'd be a little nervous to do stuff like that. It'd be a little spooky. I'm not saying the bike can't do it, but I would be nervous. But anyway, regarding those carb issues, so say you don't know much about carbs, but even though, look at this perfect feeling, look at that, no flat spot, there's no flat spot anywhere. But regarding those carb buddies, you know, the first time you do have to clean it, the first time you do want to change jets, you're not going to forget how to do it. And if you do, your carb buddies that you can find online, they'll help you. So have no fear when it comes to that. Now, back to that VFR, I had to fix this issue right there on my VFR. That meant reflashing the ECU, which, why would you buy a bike that you have to use a computer program to fix? And by the way, on a round the world trip, if you have an issue and the ECU is jacked, or that little printable circuit board or whatever it's on, if that thing messes up or that fuel pump messes up, you're less likely to get that repair. But why buy a bike that you have to reflash? So this is what carb people are thinking. Now, what carb people aren't thinking is that you're not smart because you bought an EFI bike, because a lot of time people that own carbureted bikes also own EFI bikes, but they buy the carbed bike because of specific characters that the carburetor has. And it's what we've been talking about, the articulation at the throttle, that smooth, that zero flat spots. They can put bigger jets more easily. There are fewer contingencies. There are fewer places for failure. There's things like that simplify it. So when they're out, they're not taking all the same risks that they are by going out with a more complex system. So that whole thing, the thing about hearing it like, oh, you can fix it on the side of the road, that's kind of a lame reason, a pitch for carbs. It's more complex than that. There's more to it than that. But for me, being somebody that's a fairly new dual sport and adventure rider, I grew up on dirt bikes, but I mostly have spent my life on street bikes. But it's easier for me to ride this. I can ride this DR650 better than I can ride a 701, or, you know, some of these more powerful enduros, some of these more powerful ADV bikes. I can ride the more powerful than I can some of the stronger EFI stuff, and it's because it's keeping me within my limits, and I can find the bike's limits better also, so the value's there. But I wanted to make this video not to spark conflict, but by design the video is hopefully going to spark discussion. And this channel, it's kind of a learn as you go sort of a channel, and I share my experiences. So please feel free to comment, definitely subscribe, and thank you very much for hanging out with us today. See you in the next video. I'm Comfy Dad Shoes.